morning. I've got another review for you. So my perfume of the day is from a decant and it's called Sticky Cake. I don't know if you can see that. The writing's not that clear anyway, but it is Sticky Cake by Comme de Garcons. So Comme de Garcons are quite well known for doing very rich incense, resinous kind of fragrances. So this is something completely different. Now I believe they released it originally quite a long time ago, and then they have quite recently, in the last year or so, re-released the range. So they stopped doing them and now they've started again. I was first made aware of the fragrance by Delicious Delights when she was in Paris shopping, and I think that's when it was, she showed us them in Paris, and then I believe she might have done a separate review a bit later on, and I was really intrigued by this one. It's called Sticky Cake, and you would expect a very sweet dessert-like gourmand fragrance. In actual fact, the name did put me off really trying to hunt it down because I thought it was going to be too sweet for me. My tastes when it comes to gourmand are, I prefer them to be lighter and less exact on the smell of a dessert or a sweet. So I like a hint of a dessert or a sweet, but I also like other elements to lighten the fragrance up. Otherwise, to me, it's too sticky and too sweet, and then becomes not that versatile a fragrance. I also find a lot of gourmands can be very linear, and that gets on my nerves a little bit as well. I like a fragrance to change on my skin. So I was kind of intrigued but also a little bit hesitant regarding Sticky Cake. But a lovely fragrant friend, Ben, was selling me something, and then he offered me a decant of this at a really good price, and I couldn't refuse the chance to give it a go. So here we are. I have tried it on my skin on several occasions, but I haven't given it a full wearing yet. So I'm going to do so now. I'm going to put some on my arms off camera. And first things first, this is not a heavy, extra sweet gourmand. In actual fact, if I smelt it blind, I don't think I'd necessarily classify it as a gourmand at all. It definitely has sweet elements, but it's quite light. If I was to say it smells like anything else, the closest things I can think of is Dragonfly from Zoologist. Now I know that sounds a bit weird, but I think it's the almond-like feel to this fragrance, which is quite like the heliotrope note from Dragonfly. And the fragrance in general, Dragonfly, is very light and ethereal, and so is Sticky Cake. I know, it's hard to believe, but it's true. Also, it reminds me of Jasmine's Marzipan from Lancôme, because I think there must be, again, similarities. Now, the Jasmine's Marzipan fragrance, I didn't actually get around to reviewing it in the end, and then the decant leaked, but I was expecting more of a gourmand with that fragrance, and in actual fact it was so much not what I was expecting that it left me feeling a bit sad. Now, some people really love that fragrance, don't let me put you off. It does remind me of that though. I feel like there is perhaps similar floral elements, and that the almond-like note in Sticky Cake is kind of like that almond-like note in Jasmine's Marzipan, which was not that gourmand, more lighter, and yeah, it doesn't actually smell like marzipan is what I'm saying. It's more of a hint, a tiny hint of marzipan. If you just had a tiniest little bit of marzipan and you spread it really, really thinly on a patch of grass or hay, it's kind of like that smell, which is quite nice. But when I got my decant of Jasmine's Marzipan, I wanted a marzipan hit, so that disappointed me. Now this fragrance, I was just concerned it was going to be too sweet and too cake-like, and in actual fact, it's not. So let's give it a full wearing today, and I'll let you know how I get on. Oh, it's Friday, by the way. Happy Friday. So the notes for Sticky Cake: almond, honey, pistachio, iris, myrrh, sugar and milk. That is all that's listed on Fragrantica. Hiya, so here we are in my favourite recording studio, the local park in Snodland. Sat beside a rather nice bin, and there's not many people about today. So, where were we? Sticky cake. Sticky cake. So, what can I tell you? I found out some facts. Sticky cake was originally released in 1996, and then it was discontinued and then since released quite recently. The bottle now has changed and it's in a opaque white, looks kind of like metallic, or you know, like looks a bit like the Montal canisters, so looks like an aerosol almost. In terms of the way it smells, I stand by what I said at the opening. I'm not getting too much change. I'm getting sweet hay, a little bit of freshly mown grass. I did notice a touch of iris, like a sweet powder thing going on. What else did I say? Yeah, it is cakey in the opening a little bit, but it's more like if you took a really airy cake, something cooked by, or baked should I say, baked by the likes of Mary Berry, so full of air, light as a feather. And if you took that cake to the top of a haystack in a meadow and then you stood far away and just caught a whiff of it in the breeze. So what I'm saying is it smells like a cake, but with lots and lots of fresh, clean air, with the smell of hay and grass, etc. Maybe even a touch of some flowers, just all filling that space. A very, very light fragrance. It does also smell a tiny bit like there's a bit of marzipan on there, but just a touch. And then as it dries down, it doesn't change too much. It just kind of softens up even more. I would say as time goes by, it gets slightly sharper, if that makes any sense. So it goes a little bit more high-pitched, but only a little bit. That's the only changes that I get on my skin. It really doesn't do that much, and it doesn't last very well, unfortunately. It is very barely there now, and we are at lunchtime, about 1:30ish. So we're only about 5 hours in, and it's barely detectable. I did respray a little bit on this arm here a few hours ago, so it's a little bit more noticeable, but I would say there is a bit of a problem with the performance on this fragrance from my point of view. I don't think that's quite good enough. And the thing with the smell is it's so light and translucent that even if it is still there, you don't really notice it. It's almost like you're wearing a lightly scented body lotion rather than a fragrance. So if you like an intimate fragrance, then this could definitely be for you. Don't be put off by the fact that it's called sticky cake. It is not a sticky, overtly sweet gourmand at all. It is more of a very delicate, ever so slightly floral, fresh, clean kind of scent. It's very pleasant. I certainly wouldn't buy a full bottle for myself because it doesn't change enough on my skin to make it interesting for me, and it doesn't really last that long. So for me it's a no, but it's not too bad. Price wise it's $95 for a 50ml, and that's £70 in the UK. In the UK you can get it from Liberty London, and in the States you can get it from Lucky Scent, and I think Lucky Scent deliver to many other countries as well. So it's accessible, and you can also get samples from Lucky Scent. It's accessible, worth trying if it sounds like it might be your thing. I'm glad I've given it a go. I don't see me reaching for it too often now, if I'm completely honest. So that's my review on a sticky cake from Comme de Garcons.